Okay, I'm Ken Rossignol with the Chesapeake Today. We're here to talk to St. Mary's County Commissioner John O'Connor. John is a candidate for the St. Mary's County Sheriff in the Republican primary on July 19th. We're here to talk about the murder that took place late last night at the Hollywood Volunteer Fire Dept Carnival, the first such homicide in the history of St. Mary's County at a fireman's carnival, to my knowledge. Commissioner O'Connor, please tell us your reaction to this homicide.
I was there earlier with my son and my wife enjoying the carnival, and we left. And then I got so many phone calls and text messages, "Are you okay?" Then I saw the news. I am beyond ticked off. This is wrong. This should have never happened in our county. And I feel for every single person that was there. Every single kid, every single volunteer, and anybody that had to witness that. It's unacceptable in our county, and this is exactly what I have been saying for years as a commissioner, and especially as a candidate.
Well, the sheriff has already identified the fact that these people brought their beef with them. They're street thugs from Lexington Park, and they're the same groups of gangs that have been shooting at each other in Lexington Park. Now they brought it to the Hollywood Carnival. Is this good police work? Sheriff Cameron says crime is under control. Your opponent, Steve Hall, the captain, says crime is under control. If crime is under control, does this mean that Sheriff Cameron is controlling the crime?
Well, crime is absolutely not under control. And anything otherwise, any other statement is outright a falsehood. Last night was evidence of that.
Numerous people have said they saw these thugs at the carnival, and yet they were not challenged, they were not restricted, they were not removed from the carnival grounds. Is this any way to run a railroad?
No, absolutely not.
What could be done different?
Well, there could be a operational plan for security that's put into place. There can be oversight for that. There could be the appropriate amount of personnel that need to be there. Intelligence-based policing, they had to have known something was going to happen based on what they've claimed of intelligence-based, data-driven policing. So there should have been more deputies there. There should have been a different tactic that was taken. Unfortunately, because of this event, now the fire department's going to have to look at it from a different way. Probably going to have to make one point of entry, one point of exit, make sure people aren't wearing hoodies and goose down jackets in 90-degree weather, and masks, ski masks that cover their face, and fanny packs and backpacks.
Well, if you go to one of the stadiums to see a football game or baseball game, you're searched in order to get in. Why can't they do the same thing here?
You are when you go to a football game, but you just stated the problem in itself. You shouldn't have to go through that if everything else is already succeeding. If crime and the shootings were under control, if the people were convicted of the crimes, because that's another part of the problem. The district court commissioners let them out. ROR. Then they get to the state's attorney's office, slap on the wrist, they're back out victimizing our community. So if every person or every politician or every office owns a piece of this, even down to the county commissioners and the arguments we had to have about making sure there was enough funding for public safety. We saw it with EMS when we were arguing about public safety. We've seen it with the sheriff's department, and everybody knows I am an outspoken advocate for this, to a detriment to myself, to make sure that the funding was there. And fortunately, that advocacy did lead to more personnel, led to more correctional officers. It led to everything that was said was needed. But everybody that ever went against what needed to be for public safety or did not have the public servant mindset owns a piece of this.
Commissioner Mike Hewitt posted on Facebook today saying that he called Sheriff Cameron immediately, and the sheriff called him back 30 seconds later, said the police were on the way, but apparently it doesn't seem that Sheriff Cameron showed up. No. Do you know if he did?
I have no clue whether he did, but I even question why in an emergency situation somebody's first response is to call a cell phone number of somebody versus 911 or get other people to safety. That is what I question. A leader that should have been taking people and getting them to safety if they were there, that's a problem. Yeah, to me, 911 is the go-to. and making sure we get in our first responders there. Some will say, well, everybody's going to be calling 911. Okay, but that still doesn't mean you need to call the sheriff to find out what's going on, especially if you just said you heard the gunshots. So you know what's going on. You heard the gunshots. It was a shooting.
Early this morning, the St. Mary's County Commissioner's Public Affairs representative posted a statement that included a quote from Commissioner Randy Guy, who really hasn't been seen anywhere for the last month or two. Do you think this was an attempt to politicize this murder on the part of Randy Guy?
I think that we haven't seen a press release in the history of me being a county commissioner, with the exception of the shooting at Great Mills High School, for somebody that's been murdered in St. Mary's County. We had somebody that was shot execution style on a basketball court in front of hundreds of people playing, and we didn't get a press release. So one would have to think so.
Well, we had one in rush hour traffic on Peg Road in January of this year, and I saw no such press release coming from Commissioner Guy.
No.
But it shows up this morning because there was such a big crowd of people at the carnival, scared to death, running and trampling on each other. You know, people with bumps and scrapes and bruises. You know, it's unclear as to exactly how many people were shot. In one press release, the sheriff said 4, and then they changed it to 2. And it's hard to get these things straight at first and separate the scrapes and bumps from actual gunshots. But there's definitely one kid dead, 16 years old, and the sheriff says he's part of a gang, and the sheriff says the killer is part of a gang.
Yeah,
So,
the same gangs that they said don't exist in St. Mary's County.
yeah.
But when we look at it, that press release in itself is more of a problem than people realize. Because what it is saying is that there's so many shootings, there's so many other people getting killed in Lexington Park, that it has been normalized in our county. That is the problem. And what happened here is it has come further north into Hollywood. And now people want to be shocked. And when I see thoughts and prayers, now's not the time to politicize this. There's a big difference between politicizing and stating the facts. For me, enough is enough. Thoughts and prayers are just not going to cut it anymore. There needs to be a plan of action to stop the violence in our county, stop the shooting, get these illegal guns off the street. Look, my opponent has been at the sheriff's office for 28 years, in charge of special operations for 12. He has had every opportunity in the world to put a plan into action. How can we believe that's what he's going to do when he takes the next step? My other opponent says tougher on crime. That's a state's attorney's motto. No tough on crime approach or statement on this one. I'm the only one that's willing to put myself out there and say enough is enough. The status quo is done. The citizens of this county deserve better and to feel safe. And that's what they need to get.
Okay, thank you.